The umbrella tag with my name and no umbrella. The tag was the kind hotels used to tie to umbrellas before they gave up and bought more carpet. Thin card stock, a loop of string, a blank space for a name. This one wasn't blank. In tall block letters it said "For Sam." It was tied to a metal hook on the lost and found rack at the north entrance to the station. There was no umbrella attached, just the tag swinging, tapping the rail lightly like it was asking whether the weather intended anything serious. I don't check umbrellas. I own one that folds down to the size of a guilty thought and leaks at the hinge. I fix things that prefer screws to speeches. Lamps, stools, the opera of a drawer that refuses to glide. I share a narrow apartment with Alex, who hangs exhibitions so carefully that museum walls stop being walls and start being manners. We have lasted long enough to keep the good bowls within reach and to retire the word always except for tea. On the back of the tag, in pencil that had pressed hard enough to dent the fibers, someone had written, "If you still pick repairs over finales, 6:30 East Concourse Bench, J. Bring water." It was 6:17. The East Concourse is the part of the station that pretends to be patient. The bench overlooks the clock that gains 5 minutes every week out of something like ambition. A man sat there with a tote bag and two disposable cups upside down on the slats, as if he'd been practicing how not to spill the beginning. He had a bike helmet looped through the strap and the kind of face patients had edited rather than erased. When I put the tag on the bench, he looked at it, then at me, as if to confirm it wasn't a loose metaphor. "You're Sam," he said, not really asking. "Mostly," I said, holding up a bottle from the kiosk. "And you're Jay." "Jonah," he said. I didn't trust my courage with more letters yet. He flipped one cup upright. "Water." We poured, 2 sips, then quiet. The train announcements performed their competitions. A kid nearby declared to the air that pigeons don't believe in rules. The station watched us with one of its older windows. "Why an umbrella tag?" I asked. "Because you can't hang a receipt on rain," he said. "And because I needed something that could promise without carrying weight. If you didn't come, this would still be an invitation. If you did, it would be a handle." He set a small cloth-bound notebook on the bench with both palms, like a mechanic laying out a gasket. On the first page, stamped so calmly it might have been advice, were the words "provisional rules." Beneath them, in trim handwriting, "Memory may testify, it doesn't pronounce sentence. If either of us says water, we pause. No theater leaving. If we have to go, we go, no curtain calls. Choose kind over clever. Sit where an exit is obvious." "These stop neighborhood meetings from reinventing fire alarms," he said. "They also stop kitchens from throwing furniture." "I have a sixth," I said, and he handed me his pencil. I wrote, 6. If we become cowards, we confess in the present tense." He nodded the way bolts do when they finally find their threads. "You repair things," he said. "I do a quieter version. I work on timing plans for crosswalks and buses, the math of patience. Lately, I keep using the word home on forms that reject adjectives." I tilted the tag. "Does this have to do with you, home, and someone in particular?" He smiled with the kind of honesty that isn't an apology. "Daniel," he said, 10 years, not currently an antagonist, not currently a sequel. He asked last week whether staying means stuck. I didn't know how to answer without quoting a poem I don't trust. "And you invited a stranger from a bench," I said. "That's braver than buying a new couch." "You're not entirely a stranger," he said. "I watched you in the hardware shop last month talk a woman away from buying the shiny thing. You said, 'It will look like you made a decision even if you didn't,' and you picked her a hinge that needed less applause. I thought, I want to talk to someone who defends hinges. We turned our cups and watched the clock think. There's a relief that arrives when nobody insists on the dramatic version of a detail. Tell me how the word home behaves at your house, I said. It goes off hiding behind chores, he said. We do the dishes like law, we fold chairs, we schedule kindness, and then the word sulks because it wants confetti. Daniel loves confetti. It's not illegal, but I want to survive on smaller food. He pointed at the tag. I chose umbrella because I keep getting wet on purpose and calling it fate. I thought about Alex showing me how to hang a frame so the nail asks fewer questions. We can try an exercise, I said. Half is an experiment, half is dignity. He drew a line down a fresh page and wrote keep over the left column, avoid over the right. 3 lines each, he said. No adjectives we can't carry all week. I wrote, keep the size of our dinners, keep the chair near the door, keep Alex's way of saying give it a minute. Avoid always. Avoid letting jokes stand in for honesty. Avoid polishing away proof of a useful history. He wrote quickly, folded the sheet as if it had a stamp and a destination, and slid it into the notebook without asking for mine. We went to the cafe wedged between Gate 7 and the florist, the one that refuses to pretend its coffee learned manners in Paris. We sat near the door because the rules like light. He told me his maps of streets determine where to put patience, how many seconds it takes to let old knees cross without feeling illegal. I told him about small screws that prefer to be asked twice, about sockets that cooperate exactly to the degree you don't rush them. Does Alex know you're here? He asked later. The evaluation you give a circuit before switching it back on. He knows I went out to return the evening to itself, I said. He also knows we don't attempt any real sentence without water in reach. Jonah set his cup down and grinned at nothing. Then I can say this part without the wrong kind of drama, he said. I don't want to leave before I can be kind anymore. He looked out the window like the word might want to hear. It's not noble. I'm just tired of narrating exits like they make me interesting. That can be retired, I said. I fix smaller habits for a living. We met again on a park bench that forgave August. He brought mandarins because some months insist on small sunshine. I brought a mat board with a window cut out and a word printed for the month. January, air. February, open. March, exit. He liked that the word could change without the frame insisting everything else had to. He invited me once to a planning meeting in a church basement. 19 folding chairs, 1 microphone that made everyone doubt themselves, and maps taped to the wall that the city hoped to convince the neighborhood were merciful. Jonah put a cup of water by the mic stand like a talisman. When a man from the third row said his street had been stolen by bikes, Jonah didn't laugh or correct him. He asked about the hour when the block felt like itself. The man said, around 9, when the bakery is open and the buses aren't sure yet. And you could feel the room turn into a place where a fix might happen. At home that night, I told Alex about the umbrella tag and the rules and the meeting's moment where no one had to clap for anyone to be right. Put this on your list, he said, writing with a pencil because ink has too much ego for fridges. Promises must fit in a jacket pocket. He stuck it next to a long-suffering magnet. If it doesn't fit there, it isn't a promise. It's an assignment. In April, my phone performed the music of news that isn't patient. My father had fallen in his garden. The femur had volunteered. I sent water to Alex. He replied 2 glasses. I sent the same to Jonah, who answered with a photo of 2 cups on a bus stop bench and the caption also this holds. I slept in a chair that remembered more families than mine. When my father woke, he said, "It doesn't burn anymore." And I took that sentence the way you carry the house key that someone you love never needed to hide. Work didn't become sacred because I was gentler. It became easier to avoid pretending I had to be impressive. I advised a woman who wanted gold leaf for a sign that said bread that breathing space was cheaper and would make you hungrier for the right reasons. A teenager asked if it was okay to ride a bike that didn't match his shirt. I told him it was not only okay, it meant he might arrive somewhere instead of practicing arrival forever. If this were the kind of story that thought confessions were the medicine and the candy, I'd confess now and ask you to agree with me that my small decencies absolve me from something unearned. I won't. There was a lunch the three of us because there are rooms that deserve to be introduced. We chose a diner that was proud of surviving Wednesdays. We sat near the door. Alex asked Jonah how many seconds of white a crosswalk needed to feel like the city respected the person in it. Jonah said, "Enough for breathing to still be a verb, not a stunt." And Alex wrote it down in his sketchbook the way you write down the sightline for a painting. We left with nothing dramatic except a better memory of what to do when weather calls you names. Our evening ritual of 3 lines, keep and avoid, continued like trash day. Keep the dinner small, keep the chair near the door, keep the sentence, give it a minute. Avoid always, avoid letting laughter file paperwork, avoid sanding off a helpful scar. Sometimes Alex added 1 line to our thread. Words away, tools away. It's not poetry, but the sink calms down when it hears it. In June, the bus we were riding rested too long between stops for the schedule to approve. No one turned it into a stage. Jonah took 2 cups from his bag and poured water for the kid across from us, whose face had betrayed that his day had been a surface without grip. The kid took the cup and looked surprised that the world could hand you a pause without demanding something loud in return. He didn't say thank you, and the bus was grateful he didn't turn relief into a performance. By August, the umbrella tag lived in the drawer where I keep useful parts small enough to disappear. Small screws that believe in redemption, a hinge pin, a washer with stories. I tied the tag to the handle so it wouldn't mistake itself for paper. The lost and found rack at the station continued its theology, how to hold what doesn't yet know who it is for. Jonah and Daniel tried version 2 of their rules. They set a cup on the counter when a conversation might carry more weight than the surface wanted. They wrote home, noun that survives new chairs on a card and taped it next to the light switch. We're not done, Jonah told me, but we stopped needing finales. In September, Jonah handed me a shoebox labeled courtesy lights, 2 small clip-on LEDs. For your winter bench, he said. In exchange, I gave him a frame with a space for a word he could swap by month. He chose welcome for November because the door kept forgetting. If this were a parable, I'd end with a manageable moral and pretend it had always been ready. Instead, I'll end where we've stood all along, on a bench that forgives us for arriving with less ceremony than the evening wanted. Tonight the station is the kind of loud that doesn't need an apology. The lost and found rack has acquired a scarf confident enough to be read. I hang the umbrella tag back on its hook because promises that don't get used should become invitations for someone else. I text Alex water, and he writes back waiting. I send Jonah 3 lines. Keep the chair near the door, keep the pocket-sized promises, keep the patience to let a hinge decide. Avoid adding shine to ask air to do its job. Avoid always. Avoid exits you rehearse just to prove you can. Home will be a table with 2 glasses and the good bowls, and a door that knows we don't treat it like a dare. If another tag appears with my name attached to nothing, I'll bring water and the pencil and the rule about cowardice. I'll sit within sight of the exit so the room can breathe. I'll ask the man who wrote the tag what he keeps and what he avoids, and I'll only write down what we can carry without needing a parade. In the morning, I'll open the shop and put the good hinge on a door someone thought needed gold. The door will swing like it's modest and new. The city will invent another way to test patience and be surprised by kindness. And the tag will still hang, lighter than it looks, making its soft sound against the rail. The sound you hear when weather decides it can be corrected and still be itself.